All right, blessings, blessings. Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth, Thursday night Torah Talks. Thursday Torah Talks live every single Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. And we are grateful tonight as we are considering very interesting passages of scripture tonight dealing with Noach in the Hebrew. And so in this portion of scripture, guys, we know that Yah punishes the wicked in the world. Look, let me tell you something about Yah and how he punishes. Punishments are earned. Okay? I want you to understand that. There's no, Yah or God is not, this monster of a being that he just, haphazardly punishes individuals. No, punishments are earned for what? Disobedience, rejection. And just like the people in Noah's day, they were rejecting Yah. They did evil in their own, according to their own eyes. And Yah punished that. Yah had to punish unrighteousness. And this is just a part of his character. It's a part of his character. And this is where we get, punishing children or you being reprimanded on your job, or it's a natural law that if you do something that is deemed and considered and is in fact wrong, then you will be punished. And so we have to really understand this whole concept of righteousness. And many people do not deal in righteousness, and therefore they reject Yah's punishment and they look at him as cruel and unusual. And even, we get this legal idea of cruel and unusual punishment. But that is not so when it comes to humanity and our relationship or lack thereof with Yah himself. And so he sends a flood. He sends a flood to destroy life on earth. That means he destroys human life. He destroys animal life, and he destroys plant life. All of those things were destroyed, except for Noah's family. Yah saved Noah's family, and that's where we get grace. And watch this. Noah's family wasn't saved because, because Yah had favorites. No, Noah's family, because of the father, because of Noah, made sure that his family followed the instructions of Yah. Yes, absolutely. Noah did that. Noah was responsible for that. That had been passed on from Adam all the way down to Noah. And we skipped over chapter 10, the genealogy from Adam to Noah, but that was definitely a hallmark of manhood. Oh, yes. Hallmark of manhood is, number one, you need to know the word. You need to have the word of Yah in you. And then number two is that you need to be doing the business or the will of Yah. All right. And so those are two major hallmarks when it comes to manhood. And so Noah's family was saved, and they were the only ones to repopulate the world. All right. As we know it today. And so Abraham and his wife Sarai at the time were also introduced, but we will get into their lives next week. And so here we are with PARASHAT NOACH. And so I'm going to open it up for what a blessings. Blessings, Brother Chris, my man. We're going to open it up for comments. And those of you who are watching by way of Facebook or YouTube, we want you to definitely get involved in the conversation, either through texting or in the chat, or jump online and put up a comment if you like. We welcome that. And we also, let me tell you something, we welcome pushback also. We want to hear how you reason with the scriptures. Now, just remember, it's okay to push back, but it's okay to also be pushed back on as well, because it's a discussion, it's a dialogue, it's an exchange of ideas. It's not a one-way street, but it is a two-lane highway, and that is a beautiful thing when it comes to discourses like these. All right, and so we're going to go all the way back to um, Genesis. However, we want to start with the Brit Chadashah. We want to start in Matthew, and we want to start in First Peter, and then work our way back to a connection in the Torah. And then there was a couple things that kind of caught my eye, if I can mention those really quick. He kept saying in some of the books in the Brit Hadashah, and even in the prophet Isaiah mentioned this, as in the days of Noah. All right, that comment, that phrase kept coming up, and it was three different, I guess, windows to look through, as he mentioned, as in the days of Noah. And so we're going to see if we can hit those particular points. All right, blessings to you. You can give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Thank you for that brief pause. All right. And so we want to definitely get started. And who's going to be the first to share their ideas about the PARASHAT tonight? Blessings. Blessings.
So please forgive me as I am currently traveling if there's background noise. So I have a couple of thoughts that really stuck out to me from Genesis. I know last Torah cycle we were starting in the Brit Chadashah and working our way back. So today I don't have it set up that way in my mind, but I do have a couple things that stood out, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So one of the first things that stood out to me was in Genesis chapter 7. I believe it began in verse 2. I don't know if you want to go there, but it is speaking about how the animals were brought onto the ark and which animals were brought onto the ark. And the part that stuck out to me were that they had 7 pairs of each kind of animal, and he specified 7 clean pairs and 7 unclean pairs. Now this stuck out to me because I don't think I actually ever noticed that, even though this is, we've done the cycle a few times, or I'm not sure if it came up in conversation, but to me, him specifying these 7 clean pairs versus these 7 unclean pairs means they already knew clean versus unclean prior to Leviticus 11, which is why he knew which animals to sacrifice once the ark was opened after the flood waters had abated. I don't know, that's just really interesting to me, because when you think back, you go, oh, they got off the ark and Yah gave permission for them to eat this meat. And he already gave them the plants, and he said, now I give you everything. So they already knew clean versus unclean. And then it made me think, oh, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, by the time the children of Israel were in Egypt for those many years, they had gotten so far away from the instructions, they already knew the instructions. How else would he know to get the clean, to separate the clean from the unclean on the ark? and which ones to sacrifice once the flood was over. So they already knew all the way back then. But by the time Jacob, Israel, the people of Israel who were taken out, with the help of Moses and God's hand, they're telling all these instructions over again. So they already knew the difference. I don't know. That's mind blowing to me because I never put those two and two together. That was my first thing that stuck out. Um, and the other thing that stuck out to me, or I don't know, maybe I have a question about it. I'm not sure, but when he described Yah, when Yah described everything that were to be destroyed upon the face of the earth with the flood waters, he never specifically said the fish in the sea. I mean, fish, the people, the creatures in the sea live in the water. So I think my curiosity is whether all of the creatures in the sea died as well, or were safe because they were in the sea, because he said everything that was on the face of the earth or on the land. But afterwards, um when he was describing to Noah that, I gave you the plants to eat and now I'm giving you everything else, he specified animals, and he said something about the fish of the sea as well. So he didn't specify the fish of the sea when he was saying everything got destroyed, but afterwards when Noah and the family got off the boat, he did specify, I give you everything, and he specified the fish of the sea. So I think that's kind of a question. I'm not quite sure, but that's how I received it when I listened to it and read it. That the fish of the sea possibly didn't get killed in the flood because they already live in the water. So yeah, I think that's a question. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right. Awesome question. I think where it said that was in the book of Genesis, chapter 6. I think it's in verse 17. I have, let's see, is it 16? 17. Let's see. And behold, I do bring a flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh. So he's going to bring a flood of waters upon all the earth that's going to destroy all flesh, which is including, and then he even gets more specific in verse 17, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and
Right,
everything
but
that is in. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you had a hot thought. Couldn't wait. Go ahead.
No, I couldn't hear you for a second because I'm driving. But I think you were about to explain the question because he said with the breath of life, or the animals on the land that had the breath of life. Fish live underwater; they don't breathe air. So that's why I'm trying to. I know it's science. Maybe I'm reaching, but I'm still curious about that because he said upon the land,
So is
but
there
then
land underneath the
later he
water?
said you
Is there
can
land under the water? There's land.
ocean floor.
There's land under the water. Absolutely.
You mean the ocean floor? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got, this is like a very interesting topic to me. And, sometimes we don't really think sometimes we think like, oh, I can see the land that's on top of the water, but we don't think about the land under the water. We don't think about how the earth is actually made, how there are geysers under the water. I think it says something about that too, that there are, I think it was, where was that at? But yeah,
The fountains of the deep.
yes. And so, yeah, was that, I think I remember reading something.
Yeah, he said the fountains of the deep were opened and the heavens were open when it started raining.
Right.
I
Now,
don't
what
know
is
the
that?
scripture, but that's what was said. Yeah.
Yes, in Genesis 8, Genesis chapter 8. That's where the flood takes place. So let's look at the next chapter here. Because I wanted to really get a good understanding of what was actually destroyed, because he actually said all But let me go back to the verse 17. Let's see, 6. It was chapter 6. Hold on, because I want us to really get this concept and not overlook, certain details. So
Can I add to my reasoning as
yeah,
well
oh yes, oh yes,
for asking the question?
yep,
Because Noah had to bring all these animals on the ark to save them alive so that they could replenish the earth again. So I'm
okay,
just thinking he didn't have no fish tanks. I'm not certain. You know what I'm saying? Like all the creeping things upon the whole, he couldn't hold a whale, you know what I mean,
right.
in his ark in order for them to still replenish the earth later. Do you see what I'm saying? So
So what's your
I
question
mean, in
again?
the event that he, if the sea animals were spared in the flood, because how would he have preserved? I mean, I suppose he could have just killed some of them and kept 2 by 2 alive in the sea. He just didn't say so.
Yeah.
But in order to replenish the earth, that's the reason why all those animals was in the ark. So in order to replenish the fish of the sea, you know,
It seems like you
if
answered your own
everything
question.
died,
It seems like you're answering your own question, and that's a blessing because you're thinking through it and you're using, the scripture, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, um, how would, and then you're questioning, how would, um, the fish of the sea be replenished? How would they repopulate if they all died and they weren't on the ark, as you say, in a fish tank? So
well,
I
I
do.
mean, he gave the measurement to the ark. So I mean, you consider whales and such. Instead, you might just leave them in the ocean. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely, I do. And like I said, I think you're answering your own question. You're answering your own question by, showing that, is it possible? But let me go to chapter 8 because I want to really look at this also, just to get a, understanding of, what's happening. I think it's, was it in chapter 7 too? I saw that. Um, so chapter 8, and let's look at, I think it's verse 2 here. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped. So what are these fountains of the deep? What was happening? So let's look, let's check it out. Let's check out. So there were springs underneath the ocean floor, and these springs under the ocean floor, they broke up the ocean floor. They burst through. So imagine, can you imagine, like, the earth is being flooded with water, raining down, and then the water, because of the springs underneath the bottom, the ocean floor, are springing up and destroying the surface of the bottom floor of the ocean. That's causing all kinds of just chaos with the water just overflowing the earth. I mean, this is just, it's going crazy. And so we know that there are springs underneath the ocean floor that were erupting. They were erupting. Um, and then we have chapter 7, and I believe it was verse 11, I believe. Um, just to get a full idea and picture of, what was happening. So, yeah, verse 11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day, were all the fountains of the great deep broken up. Okay, so you had, I mean, just a what do they call it? Like a typhoon or what happens when you have an earthquake, a tsunami? These were tremendous tsunamis because it said that the ocean floor was broken up. It started to crack. The great deep, the fountains of the great deep were broken up. So you're having tsunamis, you're having, monsoons, just nonstop raining for 40 days and 40 nights. This ocean floor, the not only the ocean floor, but the rain from above. And so, you have this just tremendous chaos happening just all around. Were fish and whales dying? I'm pretty sure they were. Were all of them dying? Maybe not. But you can guarantee that if under the ocean floor there were tsunamis, you can posit that there were, animal life under the ocean dying, getting crushed by the earth underneath. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds
I,
about right.
I don't.
And I just remembered the documentary that we watched, and they were talking about the Grand Canyon and the layers. So
Mm-hmm.
how fast, you know, how long it would take for those layers to
Erode.
build up, like yeah, to erode, and it happened in a short amount of time because they're so close together. So yeah, that
Right.
makes sense.
Absolutely. And then when you think about this was like, remember we looked at Peleg. Remember we looked at, what was it, Peleg? Um, and
Yeah,
how that
Peleg, when the continents separate, like what is it called? Pangea separation. Yeah.
right, right. So when we look at that and we look at just all this chaos that was happening, I would definitely say that there were animal life underneath the ocean that were dying because, you know, underneath there was rock, there was earth that, as these springs are springing forth, can you, can you imagine the force that they were springing up? If a rock hits you or if a rock hits an animal, it's going to immediately kill those animals. And I don't know if we can even imagine how, destructive that is underneath the ocean floor. So yeah, I would say to your question, yes, there were animals underneath the ocean dying. Were they all dead? I mean, then your question comes into play, like how would they repopulate if they all were dead? But for sure, on the surface of the earth, plant life, animal life, and human life were all dying. They died. Yeah. What's interesting to me is that even on the ark, they were not eating. I wonder what they were eating on the ark. See,
It says that they was eating the plants. What's interesting to me is how they kept them plants fresh for so long. If they was in that ark for 10 months, because he
well,
said store up all the food that's good, but the plants, they have seasons. They have to have conditions in order to grow. So I'm wondering. And he said it was for food for the people and for all the animals. That's a lot of animals for
exactly,
10 months. So he had to have a lot of food stored up, which is a lot of plants, a lot of fruit,
absolutely.
a lot of plants and fruit. Yeah.
And just like you can grow, plants in your home. You can do that. You can grow live living plants inside of your home. People have those kinds of things all the time. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting too. In chapter 6, I think it was. Did the ark have a window, or was it just a door?
It was a window that the dove went out.
Yeah, Yeah, so
I don't
that's
know, maybe it had more than one window, but I mean, if it was raining for a long time, it wasn't much sunlight. I mean, not bright sunlight. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was sunlight and rain. Who knows?
yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting because verse 21 again says some interesting things, that we have to, consider. And it says, "Take thou unto thee, you know, all food that is eaten." So that says something that you know this was their diet. This was their way of life. And I think a lot of times we don't really consider um, what that means for Noah and his family. And so when we look at it's an imperfect, that means that it's a continuous thing that they were doing, um, and that this food, more importantly, this food that they were eating, where it says all food that is continuously eaten as a way of life. And see, I think we miss that when we don't look at the grammar. As a way of life, as a normal pattern of their eating habits, meat was not a part of it. And so, we need to really understand what that means. And Noah was what? How old was he when he said the flood came? Like 600 years old?
600.
So for 600 years, no meat. That was a way of life. After sin, after Adam and Eve, this was, it's just their way of life. And it makes sense that Yah would tell them to eat, the flesh of animals to survive. After everything, again, after every single life form on earth had been destroyed. And so, eating for survival is different from eating as a lifestyle. You have to survive to replenish the earth. So yeah. Yep. I saw some interesting things. Any other comments or questions on that? Um, I saw some interesting things too. That,
What did you think about my first comment? The clean. They knew the clean and unclean.
oh yeah, I said
Cause
that. I said that was an interesting, interesting idea, and I knew that. I knew that going into this study. Um, because there are people that will argue and say, well, we can eat, pork and everything else. But, and so they say, well, Leviticus 11, there were people eating all kinds of food before Leviticus 11, but they knew that they were clean and unclean, not only for sacrificing, but even after they got off the ark, they ate the clean animals to survive. So yeah, I thought that was a good observation to notice that. Yeah.
blessings.
Oh yes. Um, any other comments? Anything else that stood out? I'm taking a back seat. I know last week I did a lot of talking. I did a lot of actually, I did all the talking because I was teaching last week. So, um, so yeah, if we look at these passages um, that talk about, I think Isaiah 54 kind of really stood out to me a little bit too. And so I want to take a look at that real quick. Isaiah 54. And verse 17, I think it was. Yeah. I think a lot of times we skip over this part. And I like this part because it speaks to me. You know, a lot of people, you know, really have issues, some people, but I would even dare to say a lot. They have issues with people who speak out, who speak up, who don't allow people to just run them over with their words. And I'm that type of person where you're not going to, and I have justification to be like this. There's no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against thee in judgment, we shall condemn it. What does that mean? You shall condemn it. Every tongue that rises up in judgment. So let's take a look at this, because I really want people to understand why I do what I do, because I read scripture, because I understand, you know, yeah, I understand it. So that rise up against you in judgment. So mishpat, okay? La mishpat is the word here, okay? And so let's check it out. Every tongue that rises up to decide a case, every tongue that rises up to litigate before judges, every tongue that rises up to present it for judgment, every tongue that rises up to sentence you or sentence me or make a decision about me or to execute me or my character, every tongue that rises up, you know, in a proper way or improper way, every tongue that rises up to measure me, to try to measure me up, every tongue that rises up against me, to determine whether it's right or wrong with me, every tongue that rises up against me. What should we do? What does the scripture say that the prophet did and is instructing us to do? And it's almost like a cause and effect type of response. If you rise up against me, that's the cause. The effect is going to be, I'm going to condemn it. If your tongue says something against me, against my character, against my personhood, against anything about me, I'm going to judge it. I'm going to condemn it. Guilty as charged. When it comes to things that are ethically right, when it comes to things that are religiously right, I'm going to condemn it. Why? Because it is an act of wickedness. See, I don't think we understand that. It is an act of wickedness to rise up in judgment against Yah's people, especially when you haven't done anything for them to rise up against you for. And so I thought that was very interesting as a passage of scripture instructs us to, when people rise up against you in judgment, the first thing, you know, people want to do is get quiet and say, well, you know, you can't say things. Don't do that. Don't say that. Oh, you can't defend yourself. You can't respond. Don't do that. But that's not what the scriptures instruct me to do. So who should I listen to? Who should I follow the instructions of? Should I follow the instructions of those who are trying to calm me down? No, I'm not. I'm not going to calm down. Okay. And I do want to mention this as well. Where does it say here? Oh, yes. 1 Peter 3:20, it says, well, let me go back. Verse 18, for Yeshua HaMashiach also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that means Yeshua for us, that he might bring us to Yah, the Father, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, by which also he went and preached. Now, this is very interesting to the spirits in prison now. Now, watch this. He preached. Now, what did he do when he preached? Keriuso. Okay. What did he do? Okay. He proclaimed openly their deliverance, condemning wickedness and making righteousness a top priority. All right. He spoke out and he proclaimed the truth. Not just any truth, but divine truth, which condemns sin. Listen, divine truth, God, listen. Divine truth is always going to condemn sin. That's its job. And so if someone rises against you in judgment and sinning against you with their mouth, the natural response is going to be to rise up with divine truth and condemn sin. Now watch this. Why is it that people try to hush you from doing what the scriptures instructs you to do? I want to put that question out there. That's my question. Why is it that people want you to be quiet when the scripture says speak out, condemn sin? I want to know. Facebook, what do you say? YouTube, what do you say? We know the scripture tells us to rise up and speak out, proclaim the truth. Why are people trying to shush us from doing what the scriptures instructs us to do? Why do they want our obedience to be to them instead of the scripture? I'm just curious because that stuck out to me. Every tongue that rises in judgment shall be condemned.
I think people have become accustomed to sugar-coated, watered down sermons and feel-good messages, and if you're scared, go to church. And boy, he sure was preaching. Do you hear that choir, baby? You know. So with that being said, anything that sounds too much like right or correction, it's just going against all those proverbs. A wise man will accept correction, but a foolish man despises it, type of thing. So people are they playing those reverse roles.
But let's keep it real and 100 tonight, because when I speak in a manner to disrupt and disturb the spirit, the mind, the soul of an individual who rises up against me in judgment. Because when I come back on that get back, I'm not speaking softly and tenderly. I'm going to violate you and I'm going to disturb your peace. Why is it that people look at it right here? I want you to see what Rasha mean, Rasha. Okay, I want you to see. To declare what is wrong. By implication, to disturb, to violate, to condemn, to make trouble for. I'm going to make trouble for you when you rise up in judgment against me. Don't matter who it is. You understand that? Why are people trying to shut me up? I'm going to make it personal. Because there are people, when I get ready to come back, when I get ready to respond, My intention is to violate your peace. I'm going to disturb the peace. I'm not ludicrous, but I'm going to disturb the peace. If you rise up in judgment against me, the scripture says, and I keep saying this because hopefully it'll stick and we'll understand what we're supposed to do. He says, thou shalt condemn it. And see, here's the thing though. It's the causative. See, people like a lot of times they like to get mad at you. They like to get mad at me when we rise up and condemn stuff. But they caused it. Well, what was the cause? They rose up in judgment. Listen, if you don't want, listen, a lot of times, let me say this. I'm going to say it like this. If you know me and you know how I roll, you know I'm going to follow these scriptures. Why you say things to provoke me? When you know you're going to get what you're going to get, you're going to get violated. I'm going to violate you. I'm going to disturb you. I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to swing. I don't have to do that. I think who said that? Not KRS-One, but Public Enemy. Swinging while I'm singing. Okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm not going to hit you with my fists, but these words are going to hit you, and you will be violated and disturbed. So if the scriptures are telling me to do this, thou shalt condemn it. Dim what, Pastor Benz? Every tongue that rises up against me in judgment. Now, this is what I will say to close it out. Those of individuals who try to stop me from condemning are going to get violated too. Because now I've just lumped you in with those who rise up in judgment against me. Because now you're telling me to stop, not to follow the scripture. See, a lot of people are so timid that they're so timid and they can't handle conflict that they expect you to be like them. No, I'm different. I'm going to follow the scriptures. Okay? And we need to be clear with people. Stop playing with people. Stop playing with children. Stop playing with adults. And let them know that if you have the audacity to allow your mouth, I want y'all to hear this. You have the audacity to allow your tongue to rise up. It's going to get put down. And that's not being mean. It's not being unloving. It's not causing problems. And oftentimes, the person that, watch this, the person that's condemning the tongue that rises up against them, they're the ones that's blamed for disturbing the peace. Well, absolutely. And rightfully so. So I think it goes beyond, people want a watered down message. I'm not talking about a watered down message. I'm talking about, let's get into the context. Let's get into the context of Isaiah. Look at this. Go back to verse 14. Or actually, let's go to 13. All thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. In righteousness thou shalt be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression. Why? For thou shalt not fear. And from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for your sake. See, we don't even understand who we are and what Yah has declared over us. For behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. You see that? We don't even know who we are. But when you get that individual that knows who they are and knows what the Lord has instructed, and they're walking in those instructions, you always got some people who don't know who they are, who don't read the word, who don't understand the word, trying to shush those who are trying to follow the instructions. This is why righteousness will never be established by this generation. That's why he speaks up here and he says, your children who are going to be taught by the Lord. Verse 13, and thy children shall be taught by the Lord. Because this generation of people, we don't have the tenacity to establish righteousness. But there's a remnant. There's a remnant of brothers like myself and sisters like myself that's saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. I don't fear you. I don't fear you. I don't have the same fear. Verse 14, in righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from, look, I'm far from being oppressed. I'm not going to allow you to oppress me. For thou shalt not fear. Listen, y'all. He even tells us no weapon that's formed against you is going to prosper. That's why he tells us that whoever rises up and says something against us in judgment, we already know we don't have fear. We already know that no weapon is going to be formed against us is going to prosper. If they rise up against you in judgment, he says you need to disturb their peace. Why? Look what he's done for you. Look what he did for you. In righteousness you shall be established. Now, what does it mean to be established? What did he do for us? Because he says in righteousness we've been established. We've been made to be stable. Stable-minded. Do you know there are a lot of people who are not stable-minded? They went through stuff and they can't handle it. They have nervous breakdowns and they can't handle it. But he says for you, and it's the Heath Polel. Okay? The Heath Polel. All right? And then it is the imperfect. I mean, he's going to continuously establish you. He's going to continuously make you stable. And see, that's a blessing. Look at all this he's done for us. And we're afraid to follow his instructions. And even worse, you got people who try to instruct you to do the opposite of what Yah is calling you to do. Okay? You're going to be established. Why? Because he's raising you up to condemn unrighteousness and to establish righteousness on the earth. You can't establish righteousness if you don't rise up and condemn unrighteousness. That's why there's no righteousness in our homes. That's why there's no righteousness in our churches. That's why there's no righteousness in our community, because no one's standing up to condemn those that rise up against us and speak against us. There are movies that condemn. Oh my goodness. There are movies that rise up in judgment against believers, and we pay money to go see it. And what do? We don't rise up and speak and disturb the peace of those whose tongues need to be stopped. When are we going to be able to establish righteousness here? See, I'm ready. When he says he's going to establish you, that means he's going to make you ready. See, a lot of us ain't ready. It's not that we can't be ready. We're gripped with fear. We're afraid. No. Now, another thing, see, here's the good news. The grammar, the Heath Palel means this as well. You probably have fell off. You probably have been walking around here like, dang, I should have said something. Or man, it comes to you later after you left the scene. It comes, I should have said something that was righteous. See, the good news about the Heath Palel is that you can be restored to being stable-minded. You can be restored to having the courage to speak up. See, that's the good news for you. You can be restored. And see, this is the problem, though. Many people don't want to be restored. They like when the world likes them. They like going along to get along. They like the least path of resistance. They like it. They've gotten used to being trampled. They've gotten used to people rising up in goodness. They've gotten used to it. And their spirit is broken. And so when people rise up in judgment against them, they don't have nothing to say because they don't want to ruin the relationship they have with individuals. They care more about their relationship with individuals than they do with their relationship with Yah. He says this is the heritage of the servants. This is your heritage, man. Do you know what heritage, man? Listen. This is your possession, your portion. No, we don't have a lot of money. No, we're not filthy rich. No, we can't buy our own island. No, we can't do. But guess what our inheritance is? Being able to speak the truth. And the truth is going to stand over. Listen, when this collapse comes, we've already had several collapses. When it comes, and all of those things that you concretely stood on, and if I can go back to the flood story, that will be shaken. When the things that you put your hopes and trust and faith in begins to break up, that foundation is gonna fall. Only thing you're gonna have is truth. And if you're not in the practice of standing up for what is true and right and condemning unrighteousness, how will you stand and deliver the truth when you don't even know who you are? And those tongues have been rising up against you. You just haven't been noticing it because you're not equipped to notice it. And it's not that you can't be equipped. You refuse to be equipped. Every tongue that rise up against thee in judgment, you shall condemn it. That was a very important key point to me. So I just want to mention that tonight and say, if we go back to the Brit Chadashah and we go to Matthew chapter 24, he says something here that goes along with what we're talking about. Watch this. Look at this. Let's see. Let's look at 36. Remember, we're talking about condemning. Every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn it. You shall disturb the peace. You shall violate. Watch this. With the truth. Remember, the truth is going to violate sin. It's going to violate the wickedness. Verse 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man. Now, this is the motivation, because you don't know what day or the hour Yah is going to send his son to come back. So since we don't know, we got to be ready right now, because we don't know it's the day nor the hour. No man knows, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only, Yeshua said. Not even Yeshua knows. But as the days of Noah were, so also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, notice that before the flood, they were eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage. And notice it doesn't say they were worshiping Yah. Notice it doesn't say they were being obedient to Yah. Okay. See, a lot of people, they want to get busy doing other stuff like drinking, eating, marrying, but they don't want to get busy with being obedient. See, you got to understand what you're dealing with. If you're not interested in being obedient, then you're interested in rebelling against Yah. Now, why should I surrender to that? Listen, people are very smart. They know what they're doing. I knew when I was rejecting Yah. I knew exactly what I was doing. He says, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating, drinking, and giving in marriage. They didn't care nothing about Yah. They weren't worshiping. They weren't being obedient. Until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Listen, don't you love your loved ones? Don't you care about them? Listen, every opportunity you get, instead of being quiet, what you need to do is you need to start opening your mouth and condemning and disturbing their peace, every single tongue that rises up against you, and say, why you believe in God? Why do you serve God? Why do you honor the Sabbath? I don't see no point in doing that. Why do you have a plant-based diet? You better be ready to give it a reason. What if 1 Peter 3? We just read it. Now let me go hit that one again. See, when the scriptures start flowing, they start flowing. 1 Peter 3:16, 15. Always be ready to give an answer. Be ready. You ready? You ain't ready. You ain't ready to give an answer. You ready to curse someone out. You ready to judge somebody. You ready to tell the man of Yah to shush and be quiet, but you ain't ready to give an answer. See, you got to get ready to give an answer. To who? To everyone that doesn't believe, that asks you, why do you have hope? Why do you believe in Yeshua? See, when they're asking you about this hope, that means they don't have it. and you're not doing anything to get yourself ready to answer their questions. Listen, their questions are a form of begging for the truth. But we say we love our kids. We say we love our parents. We say we love our friends. Do we? And if so, what kind of love is that? That causes you not to condemn wickedness, to let them know that the buck stops here, that you can't terrorize everyone with your doubt. You can't terrorize everyone with your atheism. That if you say, watch this, that if you rise up against, see, if you rise up against me in judgment and judge what I believe, you're going to get violated. I want you to understand how I roll so you don't look all surprised the next time I start violating and disturbing. Don't get all brand new. You knew the job was dangerous when you took it. So, and listen, we all need to be like that, because how do you establish righteousness on the earth if you don't condemn wickedness? You got to condemn it. You have to show and prove that what they believe is wrong. That is wicked. Look at that. You have to show that what they believe is wicked. You got to show it to be wicked. You have to show that their actions are wicked and that they're guilty. You ain't ready. You ain't ready. You're not ready for that. So the question is, when are you going to get ready? Are you getting ready? I want to know from believers, are you even interested in doing what Isaiah said? Or are you more interested in keeping the peace? When people rise up, when their tongues rise up against you. That's my question. Well, blessings, everyone. Yeah, there's a lot in this lesson tonight, but the part that stuck out to me was, just this whole concept of rising up against those individuals who speak unrighteousness. Listen, y'all, we can't put up with this no more. We got to say no. Because see, here's the thing. When Yeshua comes back, he's going to stick his flag and he's going to establish righteousness on the earth. Oh, that's when you're going to get on the bandwagon. Oh, okay. See, you're going to try to get on the bandwagon when Yeshua comes. Oh, okay. That's the right appropriate time. No, he says right now. When do you do it? You do it every time a tongue rises against you in judgment. You condemn it. You go in and don't stop until they have been violated and disturbed. In other words, look what it says down here, to vex. You got to vex that spirit. Why? Because it's a wicked one. Can't play around with that. Look at this, Ecclesiastes 7 and 17. Be not overmuch wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why should thou die before thy time? You see that? Hey, look, you ain't killing me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you? Not physically. These words are going to vex you. These words are going to violate the wickedness out of you. You see that? Look, the work that Yah has for you to do, you can't afford to be quiet. No, it's going to cause you to have to open your mouth and condemn unrighteousness. So there it is. Now you know me. Now you know me. Now you should understand why I do what I do, how I preach the way I preach, and why I preach the way I preach, and why I talk to people that rise up against me with their tongues. You should understand it. You shouldn't question it anymore. You shouldn't be surprised. You shouldn't be shocked, because you're going to get it every time. Male, female, transgender, whoever you are, it don't even matter. If you rise up in judgment against me, I'm going to condemn. And he says, look, look, notice what you're condemning. Every tongue that rises against you, you shall condemn the tongue. You're condemning what they say. That means you got to engage one-on-one, look them smack dead in the eye, and confront that spirit with the Ruach Kodesh. Because we got power over here. We're not afraid. Our mamas was afraid. Our grandparents were afraid, but we're not afraid. Because we know who we are. And our children have been taught. Listen, we've been taught by the Lord. Great is our peace. Look, we got shalom, man. We got mental peace, emotional peace, spiritual peace. Yah has made peace with us. This shalom you ain't going to take from me because you didn't give it to me. And when I rise up and condemn, I'm not going to feel a thing but peace. All right. I can go on and on with that. I go on and on. But I'm going to shut it down. Any final comments? Those of you who are on YouTube and Facebook, blessings to you. I pray that you got something out of this. I pray that you were stirred up in your spirit to continue to stand for righteousness, no matter where unrighteousness rears its ugly head, whether it's in your home, whether it's on your job, whether it's inside of you, whoever is within. If you love them, you will condemn unrighteousness. Blessings.
Blessings.
Blessings.